I've lost everyone that matters to me.
Marvel just made the boldest casting decision in history, but is it genius or desperate? Hey everyone, it's Gilbert.K here. Welcome back to my channel. You know what Marvel just did? They took the man who defined heroism for a generation. The man who looked at gauntlet full of infinity stones and said, I am Iron Man. And they put him in a metal mask as the villain. And Kevin Feige had the nerve to look the press dead in the eyes at CinemaCon and say, and I quote, "It's our universe. We can do whatever the heck we want." Okay, Kevin, okay. Today, we're going to find out if that's genius or the most arrogant thing a studio head has ever said. So how we got here? Let me take you back because you need to understand just how chaotic the road to this movie actually was. The film was not supposed to be Avengers Doomsday. It was supposed to be Avengers. The Kang Dynasty, Jonathan Majors was the villain. Destin Daniel Cretton was the director. The whole multiverse saga was built into Kang the Conqueror. Then Jonathan Majors got arrested because of assault conviction on December 2023. Marvel fired him. Cretton walked, the script was gone, the entire arc of Phase 6 gone. And Marvel was staring down the barrel of one of the biggest creative crises in superhero movie history. So what did they do? They panicked or they had a stroke of genius. I generally cannot tell which. They called the Russo brothers. They called Chris Evans. And most importantly, they called Robert Downey Jr. Not to play Tony Stark, not to resurrect Iron Man, to play Victor Von Doom, the most powerful villain in Marvel Comics history. So when that curtain dropped at San Diego Comic-Con in July 2024, the internet lost its mind and it hasn't stopped losing it since. The nostalgia trap. Now look, I'm going to give you both sides here because that's what we do. But I want to start with the case against this decision because it's a legitimate argument and it deserves to be heard. Tony Stark's death in Endgame was perfect. Think about what that moment was. 11 years of storytelling, 11 years of a character growing from a selfish billionaire into the man who sacrificed everything for half of the universe. It was earned, it was final, it was clean. And now the same face is back, same actor, different name on the door. Critics and fans have been loud about this. The casting was criticized for being, and I'm being generous here, a nostalgia cash grab. Marvel's MCU has been struggling, audiences were fatiguing. Phase 4 was a mess. They needed a life raft, and they grabbed the most recognizable face in superhero movie history. Robert Downey Jr. reportedly earning over $100 million for the role, according to Variety. Over $100 million to come back, to play a different character in the same universe he already died in. You want to know what that says to me? It says Marvel didn't trust their new ideas. It says they didn't trust fresh faces. It says when the chips were down, they went back to the well. Not because it was the best creative decision, but because it was the safest financial one. And there's something generally sad about that. Because here's the thing, nobody wants to say it out loud. If Robert Downey Jr. is under that mask, it's not really Dr. Doom. It's Tony Stark cosplaying as a villain. And audiences aren't dumb. They know what they're watching. So why this might actually be brilliant. But I've been sitting with this for months. And the more I think about it, the more I think Marvel might actually be right. First, the Oppenheimer argument. Kevin Feige said publicly that watching Robert Downey Jr. win the Oscar for Oppenheimer was the moment everything clicked. Because what did Downey do in that film? He played the character where you're supposed to hate. A bureaucratic villain hiding behind a suit. Manipulative, cold, calculating, and he was terrifying in it. That's not Tony Stark, that's range. A real range. Second, and this is the thing that has people at CinemaCon genuinely shook. Nobody recognized his voice in the trailer. The man has a full accent. His demeanor is completely different. Joe Russo said Doom is someone who's always 3 moves ahead. That's not Tony Stark's energy. Tony Stark was reactive, emotional, fun. Victor Von Doom is cold, imperial, inevitable. Third, and this is the comic book nerd in the talking. The MCU multiverse makes this work narratively. This doesn't have to be Tony Stark in a mask. The multiverse means that are infinite versions of every person. Robert Downey Jr. playing Doom doesn't erase Iron Man's sacrifice. It actually asks a fascinating question. What does this face mean when it belongs to a monster instead of a hero? That's not lazy writing. That's actually kind of profound if they pull it off. My verdict. All right, folks, you came here for an opinion. Here it is. I think Marvel made the right call. but for the wrong reasons. They didn't bring Robert Downey Jr. back because it was the most artistically bold decision. They brought him back because they were scared, because Kang collapsed, because Phase 4 left audiences cold, because they needed a guaranteed opening weekend, and Robert Downey Jr. is the closest thing this industry has to a sure thing. That's the truth, and no amount of Oppenheimer inspired us spin from Kevin Feige changes it. But here's where I land. A decision made for the wrong reason can still produce the right outcome. And everything coming out of CinemaCon, the trailer reactions, the voice, the accent, the full mask, suggests that Downey is actually committing to this. He's not walking out there as Tony Stark with new wardrobe. He's building a different human being from the ground up. The real question, whether it was bold, it's whether it works. And if that's true, if Robert Downey Jr. walks into the theater on December 18 and genuinely scares you, if you forget even for a moment that this is the same man who said, "I love you 3000, then Marvel didn't just survive their biggest crisis. They won. The gamble only fails if Downey phones it in. And nothing, believe me, nothing in his recent work suggests that's who he is anymore. So my verdict, cautiously, reluctantly, with full acknowledgement of the cynical machinery behind it, I'm in. But Kevin, don't you dare let Tony Stark show up under that mask. Not even for a sec. You made your bed, now sleep in it. All the way to December. That's the Gilbert.K take on Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. The biggest casting gamble in MCU history, or maybe its greatest move. You tell me, is this Marvel at its most brilliant desperate, or desperately brilliant? Drop your take in the comments right now. I'm reading every single one this week. If you're new here, this is what we do. We don't do safe. We don't do both sides. Have a point. We come in, we pick a lane, and we defend it. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching. And that's my Marvel just made the boldest casting decision in history. But is it genius or desperate episode? Don't forget to check other episodes on my channel and all podcast platforms for the latest films, series reviews, trailer reactions, and exclusive film industry interviews packed with tips, inspiration, and recommendations. More stories, more insights, and more movie magic waiting for you. See you in the next one. Until next time, Gilbert.K out.